we've been talking primarily about physical spaces, spaces that you go to in person. But now with the rise of the internet, we have the ability to create digital spaces. And in some cases, people are coming together in real time, for example, through virtual events or maybe Zoom calls or things like that. In some cases, those digital spaces are asynchronous. So something like a Facebook group where somebody comes in and posts, and then somebody can come along hours or even days later and comment, Slack channels, Discord servers, things like that. Can these digital spaces be used as temples? Or does it have to be a physical space?
I'd like to think there's a continuum on how effective and supportive these sacred spaces can be. And so there may be above zero specialness when we're talking about online spaces with asynchronous engagement. Unfortunately, it's pretty low. And whenever I say this, somebody gets mad because they want to give me, quite frankly, an outlier example about how it was really important to them, which is to say, yes, there are examples, but in the bell curve of experience, they're not very strong. In fact, my co-author, Carrie, and I say that if people aren't there together, if there's not a beginning and an end of experience, it's not really a gathering. If I can log on later and watch the video, or I can catch up by reading it, then it's not really a shared experience. It's something, it's a document, right? But it's not a shared experience. So I will say, while there are exceptions, and there are exceptions, on balance, asynchronous experiences, for the purposes of what we're talking about, don't really count. They're not really that effective. And online spaces, you can create a sacred online space using some of the tools we talked about. One is you restrict who you're inviting in, so that when people show up there, people there are there for a particular reason. There needs to be a boundary to cross into, which is usually a digital boundary, right? You need to have the link to get in there. And then there need to be different rules on how you behave there at that time than you would behave somewhere else. And part of that is making it different. I don't know how you usually gather online, but make sure that during that sacred time, whether you're honoring someone or celebrating something or announcing something, that it's different. And then, of course, you need to have some kind of activity that's not particularly practical or efficient, that is symbolic on what you're doing to enact whatever you're enacting, which could be a celebration or honoring. So you can do it. But for those who are just looking for easy hacks on creating sacred spaces, bring people together, just know that at the end of the day, the research is obvious. Bringing people together in physical spaces is much more powerful. And even if you can't bring everybody together, bring some of those people together to offer them that particularly powerful experience of being with one another in a sacred place during a sacred time.
This makes a lot of sense to me because I can see the parallels between digital and the real world. When you're talking about, why asynchronous isn't as powerful, it's sort of like walking into a church when there is a church service going on and walking into a church when there isn't a church service going on.
Right.
I mean, there's still some power in it, but it's not quite the same thing as when you're in an event
it's not even
with all
close.
the other people.
I mean, if there's an Easter Sunday service at St. John the Divine in New York, and there's a 100-person choir performing, and the liturgy is fully performed, and you show up 4 hours later, Seth, and they say, oh, we have a recording of it, right? And they play speakers. Is it terrible? Probably not. Could you enjoy it? Maybe. Could you have an experience that you want to have again? Possibly. Is it the same as being in an Easter service at St. John the Divine with a 100-person choir? Of course not. So let's stop pretending it is, and acknowledge that can do something, but that's not aspirational when we want to bring together people in a powerful way.
It sounds like there's more value in bringing people together in real time in a digital space, such as a virtual event. But again, I get what you're saying, that that's still not as powerful as an actual in-person event. And look, I think we learned all this lesson during the pandemic, right? When all of a sudden we had to try and substitute our in-person gatherings for a digital recreation of those gatherings. And there was value in that, but it wasn't the same as when we could do it in person, right?
Not only was it not even close, I mean, you, Seth, and I know lots of people who just avoid online events because we're so sick of them, right? The last thing we want is another moment online watching something happen.